But we're unmuted now. Are we live? Yeah, here we are. Wow. We're here.
Well, okay.
We are having a little bit of technical problems this morning, but that's all right, or this evening.
Yes.
Welcome to the show anyway. Boy, I'm telling you, when it rains, it pours, it rains, and then when it rains again, it pours another day, right?
And either way it goes, we are taking the journey together.
Yeah.
So,
a little nice music out in the background.
Yes.
Go ahead, let's start from here and see if we can move forward if at all possible.
We are Imar and Zare, or Craig and Sharon, and we are taking the journey together. And I'm going to start with our statement, our vision statement, I guess it is, right off the bat. We are going to relate. The reason I'm doing this is because we got some other interesting things to do. We are going to relate. Doesn't matter what our mother, father, sister, brother, or anybody says, even Jesus, we are going to relate. But at taking the journey together, we like to instill in people the idea of relating in a balanced way. And the way you relate in a balanced way is you start off as friends and you build that friendship into a lovership and committed relationship. And then when you decide to get married, cohabitate, or whatever the next step is for you, you do it with your lover and your friend, not one or the other. You get rid of that old idea of we can be friends, but we can't be lovers, or we can be lovers, but we can't be friends. Mm-hmm. You have your friend and your lover.
And your lover. Well, hey, make sure this show is going to be a controversial show. Hey, before we got on tonight, we're fighting like cats and dogs, I'm telling you. So this show has got to be a good show, controversial show. There's just no doubt about it. So share alike, share with your friends, share with your enemies, share with everybody else that you know of, share with that sister girl, share with your boyfriend, share with someone you want them to be your friend. If not, maybe you don't want to be a friend, but we're going to talk about a controversial subject today, as we do many a times. But nice to have Dr. Frazier on the show today. Maybe when we go to part 2, we might have him on the show. You never know. But we're going to have a very controversial show. And I want everybody to not be afraid to actually call in. Not call in, this is not a call in, but type in your Facebook. In other words, post. In other words, post. So our question today that we're starting off is hold on. Okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
This might ring a bell to some people, just depending on your age and all. You are about to enter another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land of imagination. Your next stop is the Twilight Zone. Or should I say the Quiet Zone? That's what it was supposed to be, the Quiet Zone. Because for a lot of us, that is like being in the Twilight Zone.
A lot of us.
Yes. I'm talking about females.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I guess since that is our statement of discussion right now, is should a woman just listen or be quiet?
Yes.
It would be a Twilight Zone.
It definitely is.
For a lot of women, that's a Twilight Zone. Yes. So as I said, it's going to be a controversial one today. You never know where we're going, but one thing is for sure, we want you to stop posting in. Not stop, because you haven't started. We want you to start posting in. What do you feel? What do you think about the idea that do women ever sit back, okay, and then think to themselves, my man certainly does know a lot. And because of that, maybe I should be quiet and listen to him. Again, my man seems to know a lot, okay, because he seems to know a lot. Maybe I should be quiet. For a lot of men to actually feel or think that our woman is going to be quiet, for us on the other side, like you're sneezing right now, ain't much quietness in that.
None.
We would think that they were, again, we were actually entering into the quiet zone, that Twilight Zone, for a sister to be quiet, especially if she's upset, especially if she's not feeling good, or especially if she figures she got something she got to tell you about. Yeah. Even though you may know more about the subject itself, she figured, I'm going to have to tell you. So Do women, a dozen women, actually think that she should be quiet because that man seems to know more? So we want you to post what you feel, what you think, and let's ask those questions, or at least ask your questions or read your questions, and let's get into that, because we know that's one of the one of the many dynamics in our relationships going on right now, and can cause a lot of havoc and lack of good communications. And in a balanced, thriving relationship, communication is important, very important. And so the thought process is in a thriving relationship, is it important when a woman thinks that that man knows a lot, that she should be quiet and listen to him? In a thriving relationship, can that exist? Should it exist? Must it exist in a thriving, healthy relationship? Please post, put it up there, see what you think. No stupid questions, no stupid answers. You just tell me and tell us what we think. And now guess what? I'm gonna go quiet.
But I've been quiet.
Okay.
So as that is one of those hard things for a lot of women to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear a lot of men talk about how she just talks all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I wish she would stop talking sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that has to do with the fact that what he's saying is not challenging to her.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a different type of situation.
Really?
And I know that quite often, we can be out someplace and you will look up and you will look at a transformer and you will run through the whole history and dynamics of the electronics connected to the transformers and how this goes into that and all of that. And
stop for 1 second. Who are you talking about?
You.
Oh, I'm like, you looked up there and said you looked up looking for the transformer.
I said
movies, the Transformers.
I said we can be out somewhere.
Oh, me talking.
And you can look up and see a transformer and then go into.
Oh, you mean
the electronics of it?
Yes. Wiring.
Yes.
Which is in the electrical world,
mm-hmm.
and the transformers that are used in the electrical world.
Yes.
Not necessarily the electronic world, it's the electrical world. Yeah, I do stuff like that.
And he knows so much about
before.
it.
Yeah.
And that's understandable. It goes like, for me, it goes, and that is when I'm quiet.
But should that, because I know more, should that be a time that you should be quiet in that matter? Is that one of those times that we're talking about you should be quiet?
It is one of those times that I should be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it's one of those times that I should be quiet is because if I should break in and interrupt, I am negating the importance of your knowledge.
Mm.
And that it should never be done.
Well, you say should. I don't know if should exists in relationship. Sometimes our cultural relationship, especially when we're dealing with our relationship as diverse cultural people, Black folks, just to come out front, I don't know if that should even exist from that end. I know dealing with my mom, growing up with my mom, should did not exist in that particular matter.
And
it just didn't. From the idea of should I even think that if my sons knew more than me, and I knew many times we did, that I should then be quiet because of the fact that you know more than me. And I don't think my mom even thought that.
Yeah. And
not at all, to be honest with you.
She probably didn't, but that's the other thing that has a lot of females in our generation not being able to know when to be quiet. A lot of that has to do with the fact that their example was I always have something to say. I can always contribute something. It's on my mind. It needs to come out of my mouth. And quite often it was something that was accepted in the household. The equal speech. And if you didn't have males in the household, you had this attitude that I'm contributing to a conversation, not that that it's time for me to be quiet and say nothing. It is contributing to a conversation.
And you just brought up a note when it comes to cultural conditioning. Our cultural conditioning many times have not had a male in the house, and because there hasn't really been a male in the house, there really has been most of the conversation to be listening to was the female conversation.
Right.
Like in this case, like my mom.
Right.
And therefore, there's no doubt about it. The way my mom expressed herself, the last word, the first word, and every word was her word.
Mhm.
Period. In the
Yeah.
story, and there was no other male to bounce off information and conversations with from that end. And when we did try to speak as our own influence, our own male, what we believe, this still was her last word
Right.
when it came down to it.
Right.
Again, because there was no father figure in the home to either debate or counter or have any authority of conversation of knowledge. The last word and only word was always a word. So at least in her mind thought, at least how she represented it as a Black woman, there was no way that she ever think that I should be quiet and listen to this.
Right.
Man.
But then she was the authority figure,
Yes, exactly.
so she was in the position to have that last word.
Mm-hmm.
In a relationship where it's husband, wife,
Mhm.
committed partnership or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
there's a interdependence there, an equality there.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to learn when to not feel like you are in a position to be the authority, or authoritarian.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference in being an authority on something and being an authoritarian.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's that line that you have to draw. If you're an authority on something, you're going to be able to talk about it ad nauseum. But if you're
What the heck is agnostic? What is that?
on and on and on and on and on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd probably get very agnostic. Whatever you use.
Ad nauseum.
Yeah, what's another word when you get real sick? Because you say something over and over again. Think about it. Go ahead.
Yes.
Can't think about it.
So anyway, what I was saying, but then you've got to know when to listen to that person who is an authority, and when your male partner is an authority on something,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it's time for you to listen and not have to come in like you know more. Sometimes you may know as much.
Well, you talking as if right now I'm listening, but you know more than what you're
I don't. I'm trying to make a point
Okay.
because of the difference.
Does making a point give you the right then to feel your conversation should be at the center of the
Absolutely
attention?
not.
And therefore, as I was doing, just listen to you.
Absolutely not. Because you brought something up.
Or
that-
you talked as if you did. That's all.
You're right.
Yeah, you did.
Guess what?
You were pointing at me and everything else,
Guess what?
and had me think I should. She knows a lot.
No, she doesn't. No, she
I
doesn't.
better listen.
No, I was just making a point about your mother being.
But I'm just saying
The
to you, that's
authoritarian.
pretty much
Yeah.
what I'm thinking. Oh, most of our life, Black men's life, most of our life, that's what we pretty much had
Yeah.
to submit to or had pretty much delegated to us. Is that
Exactly.
expression in our life? And many males, many females came across that way. And many males, of course, would submit that same typical way. Not all, but many do. Let's look at something real quick before we go on. I think people are kind of nervous about talking. I know there's women out there who want to say something. There's no doubt about it. They're not going to want to just listen to this. They gotta want to say something. We want you to say something. We want you to feel that you should say something. There's got to be some guys out there listening to me too who probably feel this either way I do or like she does. Well, I like to just listen. Don't want to say anything because I know once my sister girls start talking, I'm going to get blown away. She's out smarter than me, and I don't know too much anything. If I did, she's still going to make me feel like I don't know anything. But let's look at something. Cultural traditions referred to is often associated with this again. Cultural traditions that are usually referred to when women are to mostly do listening are usually patriarchal societies and can be found in various cultures around the world. It's important to note that not all cultures follow tradition and customaries and practice. It's a custom or practice that can vary between different societies, okay? But it is a cultural tradition, and some societies here in this world still exist. And there's some religions in this world that practice that same thing, where a woman should listen. And it doesn't just mean that the guy knows a lot. It could be that her man or her husband is just a man and a husband, and he leads things. So therefore, if he's saying something, she's got to listen, and he has to have the last word. Of course, that's two things: last word and listening, and being quiet and listening is two different things, but usually kind of marry together. If you know, if I'm got you listening and I'm doing all the talking, then I'm going to have the last word. I could just do it right there.
Exactly.
Oh, see, that yet. Anyway, I think I got the point. What you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. Unfortunately, a lot of the Black community does not have that experience. There are some, but
I think the old school ones kind of get that perception.
Yeah.
I think
and there are some religious entities that still follow that doctrine. But for a greater extent, and I find that it's more helter skelter, and you don't have those grades, not wrong or right, but that they are just not that they're not that prevalent. So yeah.
So what are we trying to say about this altogether? So do something here, and my phone's just like gross. What do we say about this? In some traditions, setting there may be a belief that a woman should be quiet and defer to a man, particularly if the man is considered to possess more knowledge and holds a position of authority. The cultural practice can stem from deeply ingrained gender roles and expectation, which often prioritize the male's dominance and female's submission.
Yeah.
So if you have mostly a patriarchal society that says, in this case, the man is the dominant and the woman is submissive, then therefore the role of the woman to listen to him becomes part of that culture.
Right.
And the dominance may be, that he may not know everything. It may be just because he's a male, so therefore it defaults to.
Right.
He is to be knowing. Yeah, he should be knowing everything. And does knowing everything really jurisdict that you should be listening to? I say that because there are some kids I know in school right now. They would tell me, Mr. Butts, hell no. Just because my teacher knows everything, I listen to shit that he's saying. Kind of what I did. But that's what they be saying to him, all right? It was the idea that just because you know everything means I should be listening to you. No.
And you know, when you really think about it, and since you brought up the school setting, nobody knows everything. And
some people know more than others.
Oh, yes, some people. There are definitely people who know more than others, but they still don't know everything.
That's true.
You know, so a question can come up. They could be an authority in a specific area, but a question could still come up that they don't know the answer to.
That's true.
Because they haven't had that particular experience or found that to come up as an issue.
Well, you know, I expected of this particular topic, we may have to bring it up again because it's probably going to we bring something else up when Dr. Frazier comes. I expected to have more people who are bold enough to actually call, especially some women who would call and say, I don't believe, not call, but post and say, I don't believe I need to listen to a man just because he knows everything. And there might be some men coming up, well, hey, just because I know anything, I don't think my woman has to just listen to me. It's okay if we go back and forth and debate, or we have a conversation goes back and forth. I may not get everything in just because I know everything, and that's not how it should be. And I was hoping to be able to get this kind of conversation because we know in relationships, especially those who are just trying to survive,
right.
We know that's a battle. We know there's a battle. We know we have a lot of young folks who are not taking that kind of traditional role or that patriarchal society, or even maybe more than matriarchal society, because a lot of black men were not around. So it's like, no, I run the show. My word says you just need to follow along, and that's how it goes.
Right.
And sometimes it's even according to geographical, where down south where it seems more that females are the one that runs most of the show, have the last word, and up north it seems to be the opposite way around most of the time. And there's always exception to every rule, but it seems to be that way. But anyway it goes, we want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear your family. What do you think about that? Should a woman feel comfortable and feel okay to listen to that man in if he knows more, and how should she listen? Should she listen attentively, or should be listening like, yeah, whatever? I mean, what kind of roles of listening, if you believe they should be listening? Let's move on real quickly again, and look at, there are different cultures that still practice that today. The Asian culture, the Chinese culture, and what's another culture?
Arabic,
Mm-hmm.
some African, some Nordic.
Yeah, their cultures.
Cultures in these countries.
Mm-hmm.
They have cultures where women listen.
And what do they think about the women who do listen?
They think that they're being thoughtful. They think that that's an indication of their thought.
You're getting kind of warm listening to that, ain't you?
I am.
I wonder why. It's kind of like a little bit of an ouch, especially if you went to the American educational system where women live was pushed a lot. You know that, trying to bring some kind of stability, but it's mostly in the white culture, not so much the black culture. I don't know why about that, but you know that was presented there. To hear in some culture that if a woman showed that silence or listening, that it was looked upon as being thoughtful.
Well,
also agreement and receptiveness. That's not necessarily what's presented in this culture.
And
you know that.
Well, today it isn't. But you take into consideration, back when you talk about the college situation, women's lib at that time was not a major force when I went to school, when I went to college. It was not a major force. A lot of us still came out of college with the idea of, in a relationship, the man should have more of a lead, and you know, the woman should be more submissive. I'm not saying be a lapdog, but I'm saying be more attuned.
Is that pretty much how you came up with your culture, just and what they call the generation X, right on the back end of the baby boomers? Because that's what it'd be on the back end.
Where, you know, I grew up with the idea that, you know, I grew up watching the male driving, the woman dealing with things in the house, even though she worked, dealing with things in the house, the male dealing with things outside the house. I had a little issues with that because I had I liked doing things outside. So, you know, but my focus when I was growing up was education. That was the thing. But women's lib and that whole, you know, women are the power brokers and all that. No, we were just happy to have a generation in college. You know, that other stuff, that was a bit much. Now, I'm not saying that once we got to the other side of that, and women started, you know, having careers and things where they had a certain type of income coming in, that didn't change. But I'm saying that when we were in college, women's lib was, I cannot remember one women's lib protest on the campus where I was, ever.
Well, taking a little bit of a turn as for these moving parts that we still deal with, the cultural conditioning and how we relate to one another and who is supposed to be, you know, listening to, who not to be listening to. It seems like the culture that has the hip hop culture, the rap culture, it seems like since men do most of the talking, it seems like the man or the male is to have the last word in the matter, and she just goes along with it, and that's just how it goes. If I'm correct in seeing what I see in the hip hop culture, do you see that same thing too?
It's somewhat.
Male macho, alpha male.
It's definitely alpha male.
Yeah.
It's alpha male to a fault.
Yeah.
It's so alpha male that there is no middle ground that can be played with.
So her listening portion in this case is my listening for me. If you're the woman, I want you to be seen, look good, look sexy, do that good thing on that pole, have that nice big badonkadonk as they call, and all that particular part when it comes to seeing you sexy and sensual. But I really don't want to hear you because you really got nothing to say to me from that end. You see, that's pushed a lot to and especially still pushed a lot in our particular culture from that end. I wonder how that dynamics plays in our relationship when it comes to the new generation that's trying to relate to one another, whether it's empowerment from young Black women, empowerment from women who have their own jobs, are working, having money coming in, which always helps you to be more independent, make you think that you could do things on your own. At one time, it didn't happen that way in this culture. That's why one time in this particular country, a woman couldn't buy things on their own. Women, especially Black women, couldn't vote. Those kind of things did exist. Young folks, you don't have to worry about it right now because it's really not that bad right now. But it did exist. So since it doesn't, then it allows you to have more empowerment on making a decision on what you want and where you want to go from that particular end. So the conflict when you see the illusion that in turn as a male, because I can do the same thing, and my culture says, especially in the music culture, that I'm supposed to be the dominance. I'm supposed to be the king. I'm supposed to be the lion. I'm supposed to be like in power, the one that runs the show. You get Mary J. Blige and other ones who are kind of power in their own way, but they're more male-like in their empowerment and how they express themselves, their empowerment. How do we deal with the fact that is listening, the skill of listening, in cultures who do it differently, is the skill of listening really something that can exist anymore? Because we know from cultural practice, they were stemmed and deeply ingrained and kept, when women were doing that, they were kept to interchange calmness. In some cases, silence can be a way to allow everyone to save face in these cultures, which is not to say that it can be as important as what it has been, but sometimes that silence saved face in the situation. When something was going to explode, something was going to get out of hand, that silence calm that situation, solve that situation, or save the face of that situation. And when that woman was did present that kind of calmness, then in turn things move forward. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, and that, yes, it's one of those things that it has always been, a woman has always been called upon to be the peacemaker. And that silence is that symbol of the peacemaker. I won't say anything, or if I do have to say something, I'll say, yes, dear, you're right. In the back of my mind, I'm saying, you are so far off. But I won't voice that. In today's society, that's really difficult for a lot of women to do.
Yeah, I know. My mom was not, she didn't move that way at all. There was not that thought process for that when it came to peacemaker. She'd give you a piece of her mind. From that standpoint of view, and it might make you do something. But anything else? No. Let's go to a commercial real quickly, and then we'll come back and we'll chat a little bit more. Hey, I know y'all out there know who's listening. Hey, I can see you right from here. You got some questions, you got some concerns. Some of you are mad as can be because we're bringing this up and don't really want to hear it. Some of you do think it's something that's a concern that we should have in relationships. Now, remember, we're talking about healthy, balanced relationships. That's what we're discussing. And if you got something you want to say, please put it in the post and see what you feel in comments, I should say. We'll talk about it a little bit more and see what a direction that we can go and we should go, and maybe we shouldn't go at all. That's one thing for sure. Let's go to a commercial. Wow, we are back again. We're back again. Hopefully, you are back again too at the same time. Sharon, let's talk a little bit about, since we're in our commercial time, let me pop up some where they can go and see us. Oh, how about this one? Let's try that one. Go ahead.
Yes. You can find us at Taking the Journey dash together.com. You can find us on Facebook at TTJ Together, Instagram .com, taking the J together. Oops, sorry. And the website is takingthejourney-together.com. Again, email.
Oh, you fooled me.
That's okay. Email ttjt at takingthejourney-together.com.
What's another place they can find us?
Another place they can find us is Saturday mornings from 9 to 10 a.m. on WRUU 107.5. And you can also look at our, listen to our
Well, listen to us Thursdays, 6 p.m. right here.
oh, absolutely, right
Okay,
now.
exactly.
You have found us. You have found us.
Okay, what was that last place we always like to talk about? Give family fun, friendly things for people to do.
Yes.
That's too many F's.
On River Street every
Mhm.
third weekend. The next one coming up is July 21st, 22nd, and 23rd.
We are the most consistent, long African American couple owned nonprofit business on River Street in the history of Savannah to do this consecutively for 9 years in the downtown area, where most of the
heart of
downtown
tourism.
area and the heart of tourism doesn't want to see people like us being down there, and are doing their best to do the gentrification and push it all the way. So you got to come out and support what we do. We want folks that look like us to come down there to either become, well, let me put this up. Which one is it? This one? No, to either become vendors. Where's it at? Either become vendors
There we go.
or come down and enjoy yourself. We have a lot of African American vendors down there too at the same time. We have our site manager who does a good job of playing good music. Come down and dance. Family fun, friendly. On Saturdays, we do from 9 to 10 o'clock or 9 to 8 to 10 o'clock,
8 to
11
10.
o'clock. What is it?
It's either 7 or 8 to 10. It just depends on
Okay.
the time of year.
What's
and
it called?
whatnot. The River Party.
The River Party. Come down and dance, enjoy yourself. It's family friendly fun, and there's no, problems that happen down there on River Street. Since we've been down there, it's going to be kind of hard to find parking, no doubt about it. We're still trying to work with Ophi, the cat, and some other folks to help us to be able to get people from our communities to bring them down on River Street and back again so you can enjoy yourself, because parking is just terrible, absolutely terrible.
Get a group of people and hire an Uber.
There you go. Drop you off and take you back again. But
Yes.
we'd love to see you down on River Street too at the same time. We can't let them push us out. We got to be there. We're the last kind of a hope, if you may want to say, of a large organization putting together a large event in Savannah that keeps our footprint there of our diversity and people that look like us. Very, very important. Okay, let's move on. We were talking about what again?
We were talking about.
Shh. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know.
Okay.
You go ahead and say it.
No, I give you the permission. No.
Okay. We were talking
Isn't
about.
that something in some countries?
I know.
That's how that would be.
Yeah.
In our African country, our mother Africa, the country that we love and talk about, is our mother. In our African background is the mother spirit and all that other good stuff. There are still in those countries,
Some
many of the
countries.
countries, it's a continent with a whole bunch of countries now. Some countries are big as America and more, that there is where a woman can't really even speak until the man says, you have the permission to be able to speak. Isn't that something?
Yes. Even though most of the countries I think are matriarchal,
Mhm.
there's still quite a few that are
Mhm.
patriarchal.
Oh yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
what most of the America are matriarchal. I don't know where you got
Well,
that from, but that sounds good, but I don't think so.
Somebody told me that,
Oh well,
and so
could be
Yeah.
with the study. Still, there's still countries where
absolutely.
and it's hard to think about how, to me, on the male side, growing up, how my mom is, that a woman would actually in turn say, "Okay, I'll be quiet and wait till you say." And that I can say that. I don't see it work. Even our relationship, I've asked you to do this sometimes. You still don't be quiet. You look at me like, and I have to get a little stern and like, I got something to say. I need for you to listen. And you're like, okay, from that particular end. So It's not an automatic submission to that whatsoever, and that's really sad
It's
too.
difficult.
It
Very
is.
difficult
It is.
when you want to say something, you want to contribute to something to what's being said,
Hmm.
but you have that fine line that you have to walk that fine line of interrupting and being disrespectful, or interacting
Well,
within a
you have.
conversation.
Well, you also need to feel that it's something that you feel you have to do. Because if you don't feel you have to do it, then you're not going to necessarily have that
Right.
thought process, let alone act upon and doing it. You're
Right.
just going to speak up anyway, and you're not going to be quiet.
Mhm.
Period. From that end,
Yeah.
The battle becomes even that much more not convoluted, but can raise the stress level as when someone is the expert of the information.
Mm-hmm.
And to make it even that much more pressure, much more pressure on it, if that person starts the conversation and all of a sudden you come in and try to hijack the conversation,
Yeah.
and figure you got to have the word in it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
That is when you ratchet up for some men at another level when you do stuff
Yeah.
like that. From that.
And when you hijack a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
male or female,
Mm-hmm.
that's being disrespectful.
But it happens a lot.
Yeah,
But
it does.
it happens
It
a lot.
does.
It does. So we see that Asian, Chinese, Arabic, and African Nordic countries, they still have the woman is supposed to be quiet and listen to that man, whether he knows everything or not. Most of the time, it's like he always knows something. I knows more, and it donates careful thought. I mean, when she does that, she's showing careful thought. She's also showing the power of agreement and receptiveness. And I know some of the women out there listen to it and say, and my man don't show no kind of carefulness, no thoughtfulness, let alone receptiveness about anything. So if you expect me to actually do that, then we get nothing done unless I take this role. More power to you. I understand that. I mean, what can I say? But these cultures, they think that way and pause at complete silence in a conversation and keep that interchange. They think the interchange stays calm. And these same cases, science can be a way to allow everyone to save face, as we said before, in these cultures, which is not to say that's important, but as what they have been. So that means it's a past kind of cultural dynamics. And again, you still see it a little bit in some of down south in some places, especially in the religious world.
Yeah.
It kind of happens. But let's look at something that I think is kind of interesting, because we're going to try to end this one. We're not going to try to beat it to death, even though sometimes when silences don't get around and people do a little beating and fighting over that. Now, who's going to get the last word, or why you ain't listening to me, or you never listened to me before. And if you ever notice off of that kind of confusion, because it is in a relationship, it's more about me trying to get my word in, or you trying to get your word in, or whoever's trying to get the word in. And no one really looks in detail on, is there going to be any action out of any of this? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Is it just talk to make sound, or is it talk to make action?
Most of the time, it seems to be it's a battle of words.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be exactly a power play. Yeah. No real action is going to be coming out of it.
Right.
Maybe the whole problem in the first place is that real action wasn't actually thought about, planned, and then executed in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And someone was passing the buck between the two about doing that. And they were going back and forth really about passing the buck, right, because at the end, nobody really was going to execute it in the first place. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that is a lot that happens far too often. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that power play is an indication that someone doesn't feel powerful. You know, and doesn't feel like they have any say so in the relationship.
And they shouldn't be arguing back so strongly either.
True.
Yeah,
True.
Because that certainly doesn't show that you, I mean, because I know you're talking about sometimes when we've had that kind of argument, and you will come back as sister girl pretty hard, even though you may get the perception that you are, soft and you don't talk much and you interrupt, but that's not necessarily true. And behind closed doors, you can be very assertive in what you feel, what you think, not only in language wise, but in body and facial body language, which is important. And many times when that happens, it does give a message to me that no, that ain't how you feeling.
Right.
You are not feeling empowered. In fact, you're speaking the way you're speaking because you're trying to say, I do feel empowered. I do feel like what I'm seeing is important
Mhm.
and that you should be listened to. Even though at the end, what I'm feeling empowered and I want you to listen to is that I really don't want to do the damn thing. But you don't necessarily say,
Yeah.
I don't want to do the damn thing. And I'll be honest with you. Doing and using the principle called HOT, which stands for what?
Honest, open, and transparent.
I would prefer you, and all relationships should be this way if it's a balanced relationship, because nothing's perfect anyway. It would be better for you to say, I just don't feel like doing the damn thing.
Yeah.
And this, at least your transparency, let someone know where they're coming from.
Yes. And sometimes, that is harder
So than
to,
none, huh?
to do, harder to say than to actually do it.
Mhm.
It's you when you say that way, it's very, very forceful and antagonizing,
I
but
mean, to you or to me?
to you.
Not necessarily me being straightforward like that to me would not be. I would have you be straightforward and transparent. Then you go the way you're going right now.
Yeah.
It's like a politician
That's true.
speech to me.
That's
I'm not
true.
going to vote for you.
But quite often, where we have issues is when you're
Mhm.
talking about something,
Mm-hmm.
and yes, you know a whole lot about it,
Mm-hmm.
but rather than just sitting and going,
You don't even do that.
no, I mean,
Inside.
I want a dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
I want to add something into it,
Mm-hmm.
and when I do, it feels like interruption.
Mm.
It feels like speaking over what you've said, downplaying your knowledge base.
Well, I mean, that also has to do with the dynamics of good listening skills.
Mm-hmm.
And then part of having good listening skills is knowing when and how to speak up in a conversation, and taking cues from the conversation to be able to do that.
Yeah.
If you're used to mainly speaking all the time, either to hear yourself speak or because, as you just were saying, because the power of my words of just speaking is the only thing that I'm going to say, and I have to say the last word, but I ain't planning to do anything in the first place, then yeah, that kind of feeling is going to actually happen that way.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. At the end, if no one's really trying to find an action out of what's trying to be said, then all it is a power play.
Yeah.
And we have enough power play, black
Absolutely.
folks, between one another. We do.
Absolutely.
We know, because of how slavery has set itself up, we don't have much likability to one another, which, taking the journey together is all about trying to, set the base of trying to like each other more and do those things to find out about who you are so that you are more likable to yourself and likable to the other person. Yet out of that, if you look at this approach of being quiet and you have what you just got to say and you feel, there's no doubt about it, you're going to feel, I don't feel comfortable with that person. I don't feel that person is my friend. So if they're talking to me, I feel like they're trying to talk down to me.
Yes.
They're not trying to talk to me.
Yes.
They're trying to talk down
Yes.
to me. They're trying to talk down to me, especially if I have a cultural condition that he's a male, he's an alpha male, and he always thinks he knows everything, no matter what it is part of the culture background that still carries on anyway. Right. Then you're going to feel as a woman, he's just trying to talk down to me, and I ain't dealing with it. Yes. And then it ends up being yes. nothing but a power play.
Yes, I'm better than you because I know more than you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm better than you because I'm some male anyway. So that's how it goes.
Yeah. And don't challenge me.
Mm-hmm.
Type of thing. Yeah. So that's a difficult dynamic to process sometimes.
Well, let's look at the side of, let's say, silence is golden. That's why I said it. Let's look at that. Silence is golden. Since silence is golden, I'm saying it now. Since silence is golden, let's look at silence itself. Whether you're a woman that feel that you should be silenced if your man knows everything, or like in a balanced relationship where sometimes as male needs to be silenced, as you've seen me give some examples, hopefully enough, that we have to be, or we need to be, or we want to be silenced because we know it's golden from that end. Did you know folks, get this. Did you know? Because we always bring up things surprising on our show. Did you know there are 9 types of silences? That's right. 9 types of silences. Hopefully we'll get through all of them. Otherwise, we'll have to come back again. You know, we always have something special, always something different. So if you want to follow the road of silence as a woman who's connected to a man and knows everything, or if you're a guy that said, nah, I don't believe in that stuff. I think it's supposed to be balanced. And therefore, I'm going to try the silence road. Then we're going to talk about 9 kinds of silence. But if you have that kind of person, are you that kind of person that feels, fuck that silence stuff? I'm gonna say what I want to say. I don't care what he says. I don't care what she says. Then you don't want to listen to it because you ain't never gonna be silent about anything anyway in the first place. But for those who want that balance, for those who believe in that balance, we're going to talk about some silent types that are out there. 9 types of silences that bring oneness and quietness and peace to you. Sharon, you want to read the first one? Oh, I maybe should have, but I'm doing it.
You probably should have.
Oh, okay. You want me? No. I set you up, but they'll go ahead.
I know. Dumb silence of slumber or apathy. Do you have nothing to say because you don't care? their words are bouncing off you like a wall. Oh my God.
Okay, why? Come on, say ouch, sister. Say ouch.
Ouch. Yes. Oh my gosh. Especially at 9 o'clock at night after a long day at work, listening to blah, 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 all day long. And then you go into this diatribe.
Oh, so it's all blah, 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 blah for me all night long.
No, I said
in that so
you're
so special.
I say I've heard it all day, but and by 9 o'clock I'm just really tired. But then you go into talking about something. It's important. It's important. But after a few minutes, I can't follow it anymore because I'm on overload.
So some of y'all know that about either your woman or you know that about your man. And you know what I'm talking about this, so don't pretend that you don't. At the same time, you can post in there and say, yeah, ouch, I'm one of them. Yeah. Or, man, I got a woman just like that. Or I'm a guy just like, I got a guy just like that. However, you have that first kind of silence. When you play dumb, you play like you really listen, but you're really apathetic. Because what was to say? You have nothing really to say because of what?
You don't
really care. You don't really care at all.
I'm thinking at that point, I'm like, okay, my body is winding down. It just wants to go to sleep. It just wants to do nothing because it's got to gear up and be ready to be on point in about 6 hours.
Now, I've seen you when you play that role with me. It really pisses me off, to be honest with you, because I figure what I'm saying is important to be heard, and therefore, as a woman, you should listen to me. Because hold on, because all day ain't nobody been home anyway. It's just been me talking to people over the internet or on the phone, and I have nobody to have a real debate with or a conversation with. So you come home, it's like, oh, I got somebody to talk to.
And I've dealt with a minimum of 90 different personalities.
Exactly.
So and it's just like overload. But you know what you do at that time? You always go, so what do you think about it?
Yeah, I do. I know that really bad.
Anything.
What I usually see is you have a facial look of this.
Yeah, I do. It's like
sometimes meaning if y'all can see it, it's probably hard because I'm always looking through my window. A look of somebody's. What is it they say?
The lights are on and
nobody's home.
Yes.
Nobody's home.
Yes. And in the back of my mind, all I can hear is
Charlie Brown.
And then a word comes out or a sentence comes out.
I purposely would change the conversation to throw a rock at you for you to pay attention. And I know if it gets your goat, there's people to say, you're going to say something. Or sometimes I'll throw the conversation all the way off and you should be paying attention. Like, hey, I think dogs should be doing this and this way. And all of a sudden, there's an elephant over that flew through the sky. You're still looking. Or sometimes, no, in full well, you weren't paying no attention. You were doing that dumb silence of slumber or apathy. Many of us know we have did that in the area of silence. It's not like we think in relationship people don't get silence. Just only think that if you have a relationship that no one gets silence at all in the relationship, you don't have a thriving relationship. you don't have a balanced relationship. You are operating in a surviving one. But in a balanced, thriving, healthy relationship, sometimes, many times, silence is going to be golden. Someone will have to attach that. And definitely, I'm not saying it should always be a male or always a female, even though other coaches do that, no doubt about it. But if there is that knowledge bank, there is someone that has something to say that you can learn from your relationship, silence is going to be golden. But you don't want to take this silent route. You really don't want to do that. What you think?
No, you don't. You don't. And you don't want to, sometimes it's not good to say, you know what, but I'm just too tired to listen. That's not always a good thing to do either.
Mm-hmm.
Because it could be something that your partner just has to work out.
Mm-hmm.
But you can say, okay, talk it out. I'm here. Talk it out. I probably won't have anything to say, but talk it out. Me, I just kind of go, I give that I'm stupid look, and just keep going.
Well, but let's try to get to a couple of them, because we're not going to get through all of them.
Yes.
And since there's 9 of them, this is number 2. We'll probably talk about it again, so I want you to hold on along with us. Let's get a. You forgot to put it back on. It's left to be able to do that anyway. Anyway, another one has to do with. You want me to read that other one real quickly?
Sure.
Okay. Somber silence. Sober. Okay, I wasn't sober. I was trying to do it. Okay. Sober silence that goes with a solemn animal face. Exactly. Have you given up being a part of a conversation and just listen because you feel you must? You may feel like a prisoner until you're released. I don't know how many times I've talked to some older sisters and sometimes some older brothers, and they will go through a long story about the life, about something, and you get that look like, and full well you're like, can I get out of here? How can I run?
And you find yourself playing with your fingers or patting your foot, or
exactly.
Just something to let you know that you are still alive.
Exactly.
That you have not ventured too far into the twilight zone.
Exactly, I like how you said it. Sometimes you could, of course, when we're grandparents, we kind of like that to a certain extent until they start getting off the wall. You can get sometimes your grandkids, and once they connect with you and they figure they can have you connected to their imagination world, it's too late, bro. It's too late, sis. They will talk to you and open up doors of whatever imagination world that they're in, and they demand that you listen.
And see, and that is what thrills me. I would rather listen to kids go off in an imaginary world talking about an experience they've had than to listen to somebody drone on and on and on about their day at work.
Okay, I can understand that.
Yes.
I just and I see kids do that with you many a times. Like we have 2 adopted families, and the little youngest ones are the spoiled one for the rest of them. And once they get, one of them just comes and hugs you every time you come in, because they know that person I can get my attention from.
Yes.
And they see me and they go hi, because they know they can't get that from me.
And I'm gonna tell you, little Lonnie, she is just right in my heart. She is so in my heart.
Names, but
Anyway,
she does.
Yeah.
And all the time we're over there, she's coming up with anything you can think of, running back, little toys, little dogs, little rag things. I don't know where they came from, how they were made. Some come from a trash. I don't know what it is. She'll drag a dog with him too, and they're and you're like, what the hell?
She'll sit so close to me. She may as well just sit in my lap.
And then, but then you get to a point where you then go back to that dumb silence. When you ain't even paid attention to her, but she's off in her own world. Yeah. She's like, I don't care if you say nothing.
Yeah.
I just got a presence of somebody. That's so funny. I mean, seriously, that's so funny.
Little kids, their mind works in such an
mysterious ways. Little kids, they operate in such mysterious ways.
Yes, they do. But guess what?
What? It's about time. We gotta go.
Yeah, we are just about at the end of this show.
Yeah, and then this one. Hey, listen, we'll be talking more about it. Let your friends, your neighbors know, your enemies know too. At the same time, when it comes to listening is a skill you have to have. You need whether you have a cultural background that says, hey, that woman is supposed to listen to me no matter what I say. Or in this case, you feel if I'm an expert as a male, I got something to say, that woman should be listening to me. However way it is, we love to hear from you. We love to get feedback from you. And some of you might feel that if that woman has not went out of her time and went out of the way to listen to me, it's because she's just not showing me any kind of respect. When I know if she's at the job, if a guy said something to me, a white guy said something, Asian guy said something on the job, she would sit and listen and act in a sober way. No, act in a way that she's really listening. But at home, when it comes to me speaking, and there's something I'm speaking about, maybe about my car, maybe about the guys I saw today, maybe about something that was working in the back, she ain't saying nothing. Listen to me at all. Hey, listen, we're going to talk more about it. We have some more listening, 7 more listening type of styles and skills that you can use when it comes to being a good listener or just being a listener at all. Until then, till we see you back again, what you want to say?
Take the journey together. Continue that.
Ashe and amen.